Welcome back to our second video. We are here to discuss surrender. Amanda and I feel like it's highly important to really touch on this subject, especially with what the whole world is enduring at the moment. And yeah, we're gonna have a little convo. Once again, my name is Jennifer Brennan. I am the owner of Much Needed Wellness Therapies. I am a Reiki master teacher and a massage therapist, both of 15 years.
And I'm Amanda Wilson. I have a PhD in metaphysical science. I also am a licensed massage therapist and a Reiki master teacher, and I practice out of Hampton Holistic Center.
All right. So the first topic on surrender, I feel like the first thing that comes to people's minds is that you just have to give up and that you're just giving in to whatever is. And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions. What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree that, surrendering doesn't mean that you are giving up your responsibility in life, or not taking accountability for things. I think it's more of a matter of, kind of trusting that there is something greater than you that's guiding you, and will help support your needs, and kind of giving up what you can't control to that particular thing. And I often look at Reiki as the higher power that I turn to surrender to.
Yeah. I learned to surrender to experiences through my own experiences of knowing that things happen for my greater good. So that's when surrender first really resonated in my life, knowing that everything has a purpose and everything is happening for my best interest. And things can be perceived bad. And I think that's a misconception, is that our perception of how uncomfortable things are, everything can't be, butterflies and rainbows all the time. The most growth happens during those dark moments where you learn a lot. And like you had said, it's not necessarily about just giving in. It's letting go of your expectations of what you think things should be versus what should be.
Yeah.
And I think that's hard for people to accept because we're so stuck on trying to control everything in the way that we think things should be. I actually have a poem that one of the lines says, "Way beyond the mind's conception lives a life that's your perfection." And I think that, what we believe up until a certain point is just a culmination of all the experiences that we've gone through. So we hold on to things that we think are good for us because we're comfortable with them. We think that they're good. We think it's because all we know, and we're comfortable in our crazy. And so, it's like, that's my crazy. You ever see those things where they're like, no, leave my trash alone. Like, your life may have been trash at the time. And a lot of people's lives are currently, not serving them and serving their souls. People are depressed. People are not living lives true to their path. They don't even know their path because they're in this little rat race. They're in a wheel that they think that they're supposed to be in. And, societally, we have these constructs that make people feel as if they should be doing something and they need to be doing this and they need to be doing that. And there's A, B, and C, step 1, 2, and 3. And if you're not doing that, you're not living life, and leads to a lot of depression.
Yeah.
And so I personally feel that the idea behind surrender is just doing everything you can that's in your power currently and letting go. But it's really knowing, because you reap what you sow. Yeah. So, universally and energetically, you get supported when you're making the proper choices. And often those hard choices are the ones that are difficult. I mean, the right choices are the ones that are difficult.
Yeah.
So when you make those right hard choices that are for the greater good, things work out.
Yeah. When I think too, like some of the most important things that you've touched on is like expectation, Yeah. And I think that, the biggest disappointments come from our own expectations. Yeah. And so, we have a tendency to like create this goal. Let's say we're creating a goal and I've, written my goal and I've determined what I need to do and I've said plan, step 1, 2, and 3, like you said, and I've done all those things. And my expectation is that my goal will be met. And that's not necessarily what it is. It's yeah, I've made all these steps, I've made all this happen, and now it's a matter of just waiting, and letting the process, let it going with the flow, letting the process unfold rather than forcing things. And I like to look at it from, like there's this idea of feminine nurturing that is, kind of looking at the feminine aspect of divinity, in that it's a, not a forceful aggressive way, but it's rather a surrender and waiting and patience. And I think that, is a very important part of every person. We are a duality of these two, masculine and feminine natures. If you're looking at Chinese medicine and the yin and yang, in order to have that balance and that duality, you need both. So those, the masculine force of creating the goal and going after the goal and planning the plan, and then the feminine force of waiting and just allowing things to
Exactly.
happen.
But we
So it's
live in
not that
such
it's
a
not
world.
necessary.
No, but we live in a world of such instant gratification.
Yeah.
And so people just want things to happen,
Mhm.
and it's tough because that's not how it works.
Mm-mm.
I feel like you should have a path, like an end goal, but you should be flexible about how you get there.
Yeah.
And you have to trust and surrender and have faith that you are being directed, corrected, and protected in the places you need to be.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's hard to do that because there's this need for control. We're all like, I have to control everything. Kind of like I love him and kiss him and call him George. And then it dies.
And it sends me back too to like the serenity prayer, which is really, a popular prayer, but it's like, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So when we give
Exactly.
up, the control, of what we cannot change, the only things that we can change are ourselves and our reactions to things. We can't control other people. We can't control what's going on in the world around us. The only thing we can change or make a difference with is how we react and what we do with that. And I see
We
that
also have to
with
have compassion, though, for ourselves, for our shortcomings,
hmm
because we do the best that we know up at the time.
oh yeah.
And so, because like control, why do people end up getting in controlling situations with themselves? I find often that it's because we were in situations where we felt out of control,
hmm
in usually childhood or some sort of trauma that's created this need that if I don't control things and make sure things happen, no one else is going to do it. So I have to do it.
Right.
And then we kind of get, stuck in that mindset.
It's an overcompensation too, oftentimes, like
Hmm.
where, you do feel out of control. And so the best way to deal with that in your mind is to control absolutely everything around you
Hmm.
and everyone around you.
And everything you
Um,
can.
yeah. And one of the things you brought up before, just in us talking was, codependency, and how that whole process itself is a way to control your environment. And
Hmm.
so, and that's out of fear. That's out of, fear driven responses, is to try to control absolutely everything, including people's emotions,
But it comes from a low self-worth.
Yes.
It comes from feeling not worthy of those things happening without you making them happen.
Yeah.
And that's the work.
Yeah.
That's that self inner deep work that has to be done in order to fully be happy, because when you're spending your whole life trying to control things, you're never present in the moment.
Right.
When are you ever just sitting there smelling the roses, hearing the birds?
Right.
It sounds a little cliche, but presence is everything. So if you can be present during surrender, you'll it, life will get a lot different
Yeah.
and a lot happier. I've never been happier in my entire life,
Right.
but it took going through a lot of uh difficult experiences, to say the least,
Yeah.
which I was never going to let them fold me. You can either let life mold you or you can let life fold you. And I'm going to let it mold me.
So if someone were to say to you, so Jen, what is surrender? How would you define surrender? What would you say?
I would say it's a combination of faith, like I had said before, of knowing that everything is being done for your greater good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually taking control, like realistic control, taking control of what you can. For instance, right now, I can't work doing massage therapy.
Right.
What did I do? Okay, I'm branding my business. I'm rebranding my business. I increased my levels of Reiki,
Hmm.
um, doing my website. I'm just adding value to my life so that when things are more in my control, I'm at a better standstill. And I'm not just going to sit here acting like a little victim,
Right.
because that victim mentality is going to get you nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So I like what you said, that it's a combination of faith. And I think too, like it's faith and trust and hope, you
but
know.
those things are so hard when you have control issues, because those are things that you struggle with the most.
Right.
Is trust. Because if no one's ever come through for you, and things have often just happened to leave you on the wrong side of the tracks,
Yeah.
how are you going to trust
Yeah.
when things haven't ever really worked out for you? But those people don't realize that their mindset is what's confining them into those areas. And
Mm.
it's a matter of being able to change your mindset and take control of your own life realistically.
Yeah.
You can take more control of your life, but you're doing it in the wrong way.
Yeah. We
Taking
can.
control, the control that you can take
Yeah.
is self-care. you
Yes.
know that
Yeah.
that's the bottom line, is getting into that self-care,
Yes.
figuring out who you are, what you need, and then nurturing those things, because you can't ask anything of anyone in life if you don't even know what you want and you need to begin with.
Right.
How can you do that?
Yeah. You can.
And some people are like, you're not giving me what I want. What do you want? It's like asking somebody what they want for dinner. I don't know.
Yeah. We're having this. I don't want
Well,
that.
if you don't know what you need, how do I know what you need?
Right. Right.
And so I feel like all of that comes together, and just learning how to nurture yourself and controlling the things in yourself that are dysfunctional, so that
Hmm.
you can eventually live a life in which you're more in control of. Because when you are reacting to situations, you're never in control. And
Yeah.
you think you're in control because you're reacting in these crazy ways.
Yeah.
People start yelling, and it's like, oh, you think you have control? That person deserved me telling them off. Oh, now you lost your cool.
Yeah.
Now you're gone down for a few hours because you need to recoup from that adrenaline rush. And who really won? No one.
Right.
So if you can learn how to control yourself by healing within yourself the things that need to be healed, that aren't going to be triggered, so you can actually take life as it comes, instead of trying to control everything.
Yeah.
Control your well-being, control your mental health,
Hmm.
control your education,
Yeah.
and control who you let in and out of your lives. Control your boundaries.
Mm.
you know these boundaries are everything.
Yeah.
But these are the things you can control. And so in learning how to do these things collectively, it will bring you to a better state of peace.
Yeah. When I think too with surrender, it's also like you're saying with the self-care, it's understanding and accepting who we really are. And that acceptance is a big part of surrender. Being able to accept where you are, accept where you're going, and surrender to the faith and hope and trusting that it's going to work out, and
And
because
that only comes from having things go wrong and then always working out right.
right.
You have to be looking for it. That's the only, I wasn't always like this.
Right.
I wasn't
Me
always
neither.
able to trust that things were happening in my 20s. I used to melt down over things I couldn't believe, like just small things. But
Yeah.
now, I feel like when things are meant to happen for you, they do. The
Right.
path of least resistance. So now, when things aren't working out, I don't force them,
Yeah.
because they weren't meant for me. And I
Right.
try to. That's a part of surrender, is not trying to chase things that aren't for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that can come in all different forms.
Lots of forms. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think too, how would you like, how, if somebody was saying, so how do I do this? How do I surrender? What would you say?
Oh, that is a good question. It's just it's trust. It's learning yourself. I would say you have to go and learn yourself because you have to learn how to trust yourself. If
Hmm.
you can't trust yourself, how can you trust others?
Right.
If you can't love yourself unconditionally, how can you love others unconditionally?
Yeah.
So it all comes from within. All Reiki, the healing arts, it's comes from within.
Hmm.
So learning yourself and learning what you're capable of. Like I've been in therapy for years because I wanted to remove any type of self-doubt that prevented me from being as successful as I deserve to be. But
Hmm.
I know that there's that stuff under the surface. So it's all about self-care.
Right.
Everything comes back to self-care and building yourself up the way you deserve to be
Hmm.
and living a life that you deserve to live. People
Yeah.
accept mediocrity, and I just don't understand it.
Right.
I do, but I don't. Like I did, like now I do, but like in the past, I was just like, this is what it is, and then I'm like, no, there's so much more out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because people get stuck. Do you ever notice how people get stuck in toxic situations? Like, for
Hmm.
instance, relationships.
Hmm.
You know, how often do people stay in bad relationships? Because they're comfortable and they're crazy,
Hmm.
and it's hard. It gets worse before it gets better.
Yeah. Well, and also, like you said, the comfortable and the crazy, like chaos becomes the norm.
Hmm.
And when chaos is your norm, anytime there's peace, it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah, but that
And
usually
so,
comes from trauma in your childhood
mm,
or later on in life that made that feel good. Like that felt like home.
yeah. And I think too, one of the most important parts of growth is getting outside of that comfort zone. I had a friend who always told me her mom said, life begins outside of your comfort zone. And that's always with me, every time I'm trying to make a decision. Well, is this comfortable? If it is, then maybe I shouldn't do it. If it's uncomfortable, I should probably go that direction. And
Yeah.
that's sort of a form of surrendering, like accepting and surrendering that this isn't comfortable, but maybe this is better for me because it's uncomfortable.
But how do you know which is the difference between uncomfortable that's not good for you and
That's
you
a tough,
trusting your instincts
yeah, that's a tough
and
one.
uncomfortable that are the things you need to lean into? How do you know the difference?
So I think it comes with a lot of prayer and meditation for me, to really like kind of sit down with that discomfort and
Mhm.
say, is this discomfort fear? And if it is fear, then it's something that's blocking me. It's
Yeah.
not something to live into. Um, Fear is not something to live into. So if it's fear that's stopping me, then it's something that I need to address with courage. And if it's just uncomfortable because it's new, that's another thing that, if it's new, then it's probably good for growth and I need to
Yeah.
move into that direction. I would say with the I'll get signs and messages that, that it's not the right thing for me. And that usually presents with maybe a physical discomfort, maybe some headaches or anxiety that is, it's kind of clear to me, but it might not be clear to somebody else, like as I'm explaining it. But I've learned over time how to sense the difference between the two. It's taken a long time, because, fear used to be like, oh, okay, I can't do that.
That's
Obviously
something
that's
I
not
feel
right
like
for me. If
a
I'm
lot of
fearful,
people struggle with.
yeah, if I'm fearful, it's not right for me. But in some ways, there is good fear and there's bad fear. And it's hard to distinguish between the two. I think we should do a video on fear.
One piece of advice I was given to by a past therapist was follow the feeling. So, because I find that it's hard to distinguish between fear and intuition.
Yes, it
Like,
is.
is this my intuition or is this my fear? And she
Mm-hmm.
said, you need to take that feeling and then let it sit with you. And the one that sits with you is the one that is your true feeling. That
Yeah.
initial, that gut,
Yeah. Yeah.
that might be your trauma.
Yeah.
But the stuff that sits with you and that carries on can tend to be the things that are for you
Yeah.
or the messages that you should be listening to.
Yeah. I like that follow the feeling. a
Yeah.
lot. I just wrote it down.
You're
Because it is,
like
you
Nick
know, and I
Jonas
think
on The Voice, writing
that's
down.
what I, that's kind of what I meant by like, you know, the meditation and stuff. Like that's what I do, is pretty much sit with the feeling and follow the feeling. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and
Even when it's uncomfortable, and especially when it's uncomfortable. Ugh.
especially, yeah, exactly. Um, so yeah, I really like that. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Is there anything else you wanted to address with surrender?
Um, I'm not sure. I definitely just do want to reiterate that surrender does not mean giving up or giving in.
Mm-hmm.
Surrender means doing everything you can and letting go of what you can't,
Yeah.
and having the ability to know the difference.
Well, thanks, Jen, and thanks everyone for watching. Come back for our
Thank
next video.
you.